Hi again, everybody. This is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. Seiya Suzuki returns today. We'll talk about why his return is so needed. Injuries have shaken up the Cubs' starting rotation. Reactions to the first 2 weeks of the Cubs season. Plus news and notes from around Major League Baseball. We are 2 weeks into the year, and the Cubs are 6-6. Dead last in the National League Central. Heading into today's game, only 3 teams in the National League have a losing record. Cubs can make up some ground in the division this weekend as they host the Pirates. More on the weekend series just ahead. A much-anticipated moment of the weekend comes a little later this afternoon. The return of Seiya Suzuki. He's expected to be in the lineup this afternoon after beginning the year on the injured list with a minor knee sprain. Cubs offense desperately needs another bat. Offense has been either feast or famine. 6.5 runs per game in the 6 wins, but under 3 runs per game in the Cubs' 6 losses. We haven't yet seen a Suzuki lineup this season, but it's expected he'll bat either third or fourth and play right field. Matt Shaw and Michael Conforto covering right field during the first 2 weeks of the year. As I mentioned in the season preview, I view the Cubs as being 1 bat short. That was the same problem I thought they had 1 year ago. So having Suzuki injured early on, it feels like the Cubs have been 2 bats short, so the 6-6 start isn't too bad when you have that consideration. Let's talk pitching, as the starting rotation already looks greatly different today than on opening day 2 weeks ago. We begin with Cade Horton, who left early in his second start of the year last Friday. He reported forearm discomfort, and it's been determined he needs UCL surgery. Not yet known the exact procedure that needs to take place, but that greatly shifts the Cubs' approach to pitching. The absence of Cade Horton, who was so good last year and had some heavy expectations for 2026. Colin Ray replaced him in Friday's game, and it appears Colin Ray has a spot in the Cubs' rotation until further notice. Ray last year didn't get a lot of use early on. First 3 weeks of the season, only made a couple of appearances, and then ended up getting a lot of time, logging the second most innings of anyone on the Cubs staff. Perhaps that plays out again this season. And there's another hole in the Cubs rotation. Matthew Boyd with an oblique injury. The team being extra cautious, putting him on the 15-day IL. It's expected that he will miss the minimum amount of time for this minor injury before returning. That has resulted in the return of Javier Assad, who took Boyd's starting spot a few days ago. Gave up just 1 hit over 5 2/3, a couple of walks, and 3 strikeouts. Now, if you read some of the speculation online, you see some folks speculating about interest in Lucas Giolito. I do not see that happening. Giolito went unsigned throughout the entire offseason, still unsigned here in the middle of April. So obviously there aren't a whole lot of buyers in the Lucas Giolito market. He looked good last year. There's no doubt about that, but he did have a late season injury. I'm guessing teams have some lingering concerns about that injury. Perhaps it's a salary thing. I think the Cubs need to question whether Giolito brings enough extra return to justify the additional cost. I mean, how much upside does Giolito bring from simply relying on Colin Ray, Javier Assad, or anyone else in the Cubs system? I say if you can wait till late May, maybe early June, whenever Justin Steele is back, see how those first couple of games go, and then decide if a move is needed at that point. All right, time for this and that. Our look at news and notes from around Major League Baseball. San Diego Padres with a triumphant win last evening. Xander Bogaerts with a walk-off grand slam in the 12th inning. And one more Padres note, Mason Miller. He's really fun to watch, routinely throwing pitches over 100. A strikeout rate so far this year over 70% through 6 1/3 innings. Back to the National League Central. The Cincinnati Reds started the year going 11 games without committing an error, easily making the Reds the last team to do so. And Paul Skeens was roughed up on opening day, but has turned in 2 solid starts since then. He's now made 58 Major League starts in his career, and get this, 48 of them he's allowed 2 or fewer runs. Cubs are not expected to face him this weekend. More on the Cubs-Pirates weekend series in a moment. We are 2 weeks into the season, and that's a small sample over what is a long season. 12 games out of 162. We've seen a slow start so far from Michael Busch, batting just 140. OPS a little over 400. No homers. I thought he looked better this week in the games in Tampa, so perhaps that's a signal that things are starting to turn around. PCA and Alex Bregman was slow starts as well. They both got paid, and now it's time to put up the numbers. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I say by the time June 1 rolls around, the slow start will be a distant memory for both of them. Now, Ben Brown is a different question. He's one I struggle with. He has power. He does bring that dimension to the Cubs bullpen, but the control continues to be a problem. He is a reliever who can eat multiple innings. That's a silver lining, but I don't trust him at all with a small lead or any situation where you're just trying to maintain a close score. So he's given up runs in 3 of his 4 appearances so far this year, and back to control. It's the same story for the walks, where he's given up at least 1 free pass in 3 of his 4 appearances this season. I don't have confidence in him being with his ball club throughout the entire season. Also, shaky starts out of the pen from Jacob Webb and Phil Maton. Don't know those guys as well since they were both off-season signings, but hopefully those guys will get things figured out soon. Let's talk about this weekend. It's the Cubs and Pirates at Wrigley Field. Cubs are 6-6. Pirates are 7-5. Both teams are among the league leaders in ERA. Pirates offense might actually have the edge so far, putting up some better numbers than the Cubs. Ryan O'Hearn leading the way for the Pirates, OPS over 1,000. Nick York, who is leading off the Pirates lineup today, and O'Neal Cruz, both with an OPS over 900 so far this year. York, I believe, is a surprise. Not surprised at O'Neal Cruz. He is really talented, has shown flashes of brilliance in prior years. Perhaps this is the year that it comes together and he is consistent with that performance. 2 weeks in, and O'Neal Cruz already has 4 home runs. We also have 4 home runs from Ian Happ for the Cubs. He's been the one guy bringing some power so far. Today's starters: Carmen Mlodzinski for the Pirates, Shota Imanaga for the Cubs, each starter looking for their first win of the season. Seiya Suzuki in the Cubs lineup today. Dylan Carlson is out. He was DFA'd this morning to make room for the return of Suzuki. I say that's a surprise because I am very high on Dylan Carlson, both when he came up with the Cardinals and with the Orioles more recently. But he's received very little playing time so far with the Cubs. I think 2 appearances, 0 for 3 or 0 for 4, his stat line at the plate. Michael Conforto, the guy off the bench, getting a lot of time. Not as familiar with his work and also not as impressed with his work, but he's been the guy getting a lot of time early on this year. And again, Conforto and Matt Shaw kind of splitting time in right field for the Cubs the last couple of weeks. Phil Maton, I did mention his struggles earlier. I found out a short time ago he's been placed on the IL with Ethan Roberts being called up to take his place in the Cubs bullpen. Less than 2 hours away from first pitch, and we still don't have a Cubs lineup yet, so I can't confirm exactly where Seiya Suzuki will be in the lineup today or talk about the order or anything else related to the lineup. So let's jump ahead and take a look at the rest of the weekend. Braxton Ashcraft and Edward Cabrera, the matchup tomorrow. Then Bubba Chandler and Jamison Tyone on Sunday. Cubs then head to Philadelphia for a 3-game series. Thursday an off day before a 7-game homestand to follow. Also, one more note. You might remember the Cubs and Dodgers kicking off the Major League Baseball season last year over in Tokyo, where they had quite a crew following them, documenting everything, both on and off the field. That's been turned into a documentary called The Tokyo Series. It was a limited run, I think 2 nights in theaters recently. Now it's streaming on CNN and HBO Max. Have not yet checked it out. Hoping to give that a watch soon. If you have seen it, you've got thoughts, share your thoughts about the documentary or any Cubs thoughts on X, Bricks Bleachers. And be sure to follow us too. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. All things Chicago Cubs in under 10 minutes. This is the Bricks and Bleachers podcast.